Here's the story of a girl named Randy. It's a story that really must be told. She was born in 1963, and now she's really old. Let's talk about the 70s. Now, I was already 7 in 1970, but I essentially grew up in the 70s. Vietnam War was still going on. Nixon was president. The real Dog Day afternoon occurred, which I swear to God I remember seeing on TV, but I could be wrong. I was woken up in the night to watch the moon landing. Now, I grew up in New York City. I'm a New Yorker. And I went to a lot of birthday parties. Like a lot of kids, you have to go to your classmates' birthday parties. So what we thought we would do is recreate a 1970s birthday party for you guys. It's hilarious. You don't have to make everything on it. Some of it's dated, and some of it should be revived. We're going to make today a possibly disgusting canapé, which I took from a 70s book by Fanny Craddock and Johnny Craddock also. Then we're going to make beignets. Now, don't be scared. They are deep fried, but you can do it. There's no yeast or anything involved, okay? It's basically a choux pastry donut. Then we're going to have a strange and bizarre thing called Clams Casino, which is essentially Oysters Rockefeller, but with clams. Really out of fashion. It's actually delicious, okay? Then we're gonna have one of my favorite things ever, which is chicken a la king, which was served at every single birthday party that I went to, was chicken a la king. We had a discussion. Why? Why did they serve chicken a la king? Why was that so big? The team decided that it's because kids will eat chicken a la king. So incidentally, kids will eat chicken a la king. And it's very easy, so you might want to make it. We're going to do wild rice, which was super popular in the late 70s. You know, sort of became popular. And then we're going to have Black Forest Gateau, one of my favorite cakes, but it's way out of fashion. It's basically chocolate cake with cherry filling. I mean, I don't know how you can go wrong with that. Then we're going to try some 70s cocktailing. A lot of cocktails in the 70s. And the one we're going to make is called a Brandy Alexander. But I wanted to tell you guys and ask you for your opinions about something. Edgar and I discovered a new cocktail name that we would like to have suggestions of what is in this cocktail. And the cocktail is called the Passing Squall. The Passing Squall. Suggestions. Let's make a 70s birthday party. Black Forest Gateau is really chocolate cake with a little bit of cherry whipped cream. We're not gonna ice ours because I'm personally against iced cakes. I don't like iced cakes, but you can certainly ice this cake with any chocolate buttercream is fine. But we're just gonna make a beautiful chocolate cake and fill it with a whipped cream with a little creme fraiche so it's nice and bolstered, and some Kirschwasser. What's Kirschwasser? Kirschwasser means cherry water, essentially. However, at 45%, it ain't Wasser, if you know what I mean. Then I also bought this rather lovely Kirsch. This is cherry brandy, same. Now, I once left a Kirschwasser. I used this in my almond cake, which we made years ago. You're supposed to put a little bit of this in the almond cake. And I left the top off, and all the alcohol evaporated, and it was like this weird cherry water. I don't know, it was disgusting. It had no alcohol. So we're gonna add that to our whipped cream. But first of all, we're gonna make a chocolate cake. Chocolate cake, you say? Why, we've made two. We've made a flourless chocolate cake, and we've made a cocoa cake. And we've also made a chocolate sheet pan cake. I'm now going to show you a cake that is so freaking easy. If you don't make this cake tonight, you're a jerk. You never make a cake without preparing your pans first. Now, normally I would go outside and spray, but 13 Soap 13 sent in the tip of the century, which is do it in your dishwasher. Genius! Amazeballs. All right, then I do a little spray like this, no mess. This is 2 cups of flour, regular flour, and 2 cups of, I use Baker's Special from the unmatchable King Arthur. You don't have to use caster sugar. It does dissolve more easily, but you can use regular sugar. 2 cups of flour, 2 cups of sugar. Got me? Then we need 2 teaspoons. I'm putting this all straight in the mixer. 2 teaspoons of powder, which of course you have refreshed from the New Year's Refresh episode. Boop, bing, boop, bing. This is a baking soda. Obviously, it's not the soda from your refrigerator. Don't use that soda. It's completely useless. And it also reeks of onions. 1.5 of this. That's the 11. Ready for this? Cup of milk. I am going to advise you to homogenize the liquid ingredients. You can just break the eggs right in here and pour the milk in, but I would whisk it in here if I were you. Cup of milk. Oh, I forgot to soften the butter. Who cares? You can use oil. I'm using grapeseed oil, which is my favorite. I would say I wouldn't use olive oil because it has too much flavor if you're using good olive oil. 1/2 cup of grapeseed oil, canola oil, vegetable oil. I wouldn't use peanut oil. 1/2 cup. In. And we're gonna put 2 eggs in here. Oh my God, you know I leave my eggs out, and I guess I left one from a super duper duper long time ago, and I was making myself a fried egg sandwich. Wow, that was intense. It was just one, I guess it was more than a month that it had been there. The other ones were totally fresh, but I cracked this one and I can't even describe to you what happened. 2 eggs. There's a magic of TV one over there. I made this cake last night. I was like, this can't work. Just like we always say, it worked. You can just break it in, but you be a little fancy. This is Vanilla Plus that you know and love. Some. Now, you might have been wondering to yourself, how is this a chocolate cake? Well, the reason is I forgot to put the cocoa powder in the dry ingredients. So here we go. Good luck not making a mess. So I do it over the garbage. It still don't matter. Do it over the garbage, it's still gonna go everywhere. 3/4 cup. Yeah, it's exactly the right amount. That's amazing. Now let's try to get this to the bowl without it making a mess. Ta-da! Remember, salt and chocolate go together well. I'm just gonna homogenize this very briefly on stir so that it's all one color. Here's your wet ingredients. Look at this, look how hard this is. What? Super low until it's fully mixed. You don't want to overmix this because the flour is in here. It can't be too high. So just like that. And I'm going to put a cup of very hot water. I'm going to tell you, I think it needs a tiny bit more flour, but I'll make that decision again like I did last night. Cake came out perfect, but I'll put this in and then we'll see if we agree with each other. You can also put in a couple of teaspoons of this espresso powder to make it really dark and rich. I think that's too liquid. So I put in a tiny bit extra flour, which I'm gonna do. You can just follow exactly the recipe and you won't go wrong. I just put in this much more, guys. And it was an instinct thing. Like that. So I think it needs really 2 1/8 cup of flour. 350 oven for about 30 minutes, 35, okay? You may have noticed that they always make fun of this cake on Great British Baking Show because it's so old-fashioned, you know. We are now going to pour this into the pans. We go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2. Now we're gonna take a look. Try not to get any on the sides. Perfectly even, by the way, just saying. How much do you think that is, guys? 1 second each? 1. I'm gonna give it a small bang. You'll see a lot of bubbles. But you don't want to get rid of all the bubbles because it's why it's light. Let's take it to the oven. So first of all, remove your clothespins. Keep your oven door shut. This is set at 370, so when I open it to put the cakes in, it will go down to 350 and not down to 330. Cakes. I'm gonna reduce this to 350, and I'm gonna set my marathon timer for 30. It's probably not right, it's probably 35, but we'll check at 30. The beginnings of Black Forest Gateau. The filling for Black Forest cake is usually cherry jam, whipped cream, and cherries. We're gonna cheat, right? And we're gonna use what we've suggested to you, this amazing sour cherry spread from Dalmatia, which is just an absolutely superb product for cheese plates, for anything. I always have it. And we're just gonna whip some cream, put in a little Kirschwasser, put in some creme fraiche to make it really thick, spread some cherry jam on top of the cake, and do it. First of all, I'm whipping the cream. Put a little Kirschwasser in. If it curdles it right away, we have to start again. So here we go. Didn't curdle it. Smells like cherry brandy. I'm not going to use this one because it's kind of fancy. Kirschwasser is what you use for cooking mostly. I mean, do people actually drink it? I don't know. Not bad. I'm gonna beat in a little bit of creme fraiche just to make it really thick. This is just fine by me. I'm not sure why it went out of fashion. Incidentally, this is how you make icing really quickly. This doesn't have any sugar in it yet, but it will. Now I'm just gonna add a little teeny bit of my Baker's Special sugar because it's super fine. Don't want to knock the air out of it. It looks great. Now I'm going to add some Amarena cherries. Just the cherries for now, not the juice. These are one of the most useful dessert items in your kitchen, by the way. Turns vanilla ice cream into a dessert. Mix that through, and let's assemble our cake. The cakes are ready. You want to take these out, cool them on the rack that I cleverly left in the oven. So it's boiling hot. But cool them on the rack for about 10-15 minutes until you can handle the pan, and then tip them out gently and cool them completely out of the pan. Let's proceed. Base of cake. Okay. Jam. You can make your own cherry jam. Go ahead. Smear jam across top of cake. You know, y'all can write me and tell me that this is not a Black Forest cake, but I challenge you to find the difference between this and the one at the diner. Nice layer of that, nice layer of this. And we're gonna do like Christina Tosi, who's Milk Bar. We're gonna put a sort of smeary icing around the top, but it's not really icing. So I'm just going like this. It doesn't matter if it squadges out because you're gonna do a sort of phony icing. Easier with an offset spatula instead of the back of a wooden spoon. I mean, isn't this a cute cake for kids? I would like this if I was a kid. Push this all the way to the edge. I'm gonna drizzle the syrup across the top of that. What's your favorite fruit? My favorite fruit is cherries. And I also love apples. And I like grapes. What's your favorite fruit, Adam?
Mango.
Mango? Very extravagant. Cake top. Very Black Foresty. So I do this. I learned this from Christina Tosi. Boy, could I use my offset spatula now. I'm just smearing it in a thin layer. This makes it less cloying. You know what I mean? Don't worry about the mess because you're gonna wipe it with a cloth. Smear it around. Smear it around. I mean, this is charming. Look at that. I'm pushing very hard. This is on purpose that you can see the cake. I like that look. Some people don't like it. I would refrigerate this for a couple hours just to set up the whipped cream. Black Forest Gateau. Can't go wrong. Happy birthday, 1972. We're gonna make beignets. I wanna just announce that I've never made these before. Fanny Craddock has a bizarre recipe in her book, but basically it's just fried choux pastry. Now you know how to make choux pastry because you're a dinner partier. 8 tablespoons of butter, cup of water or milk. I would use water. Actually, you probably should use milk for the beignet, but we're gonna use water. Melt the butter, put in a little salt. Remember that the cheese has salt. My butter melted with the water. Turn this up a teeny bit. I'm gonna add the flour. Okay, I'm gonna dump this in all at once, right? And then I'm gonna start stirring. So it's cooking, right? See how it's coming away from the sides now? But it should come away clean. So I need it to be one clean ball, said the actress to the bishop. See that? I'm dumping that in this bowl. To that, I'm gonna add 4 eggs. They're gonna cook, which is gonna be interesting to watch. This is gonna go all over the place. It's making into like a paste, which is what we want. Is it pipeable? Let's take a look. Yeah, basically. I'm gonna add some cheese. How much cheese? I don't know. That much cheese. Fanny has you dipping the fried item in cold water? That's just bizarre. Then we're gonna find out that that's like an ordinary thing that you do with beignets, but oh well, we're not doing it. A little bit of pepper. I think it's salty enough. I am now going to turn on the oil. This is hilarious because if it works, they're gonna be puffy cheese donuts, all right? If it doesn't work, it's gonna destroy my entire kitchen, stink, and be a waste of time. So let's see. So this has to be, I think it's 360 or something. I forget what she says. What you really wanna do is just drop a little dough in and see if it makes a donut. I'm gonna put this in my piping bag. So I piped little shapes, and I'm dropping the shapes in. Remember, when you drop in something, it lowers the temperature of the oil. Beignets, 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 moving them around. Beignet. They did puff. How beignet-y of them. They're unsightly, but they're puffy. In theory, you can serve these as an appetizer, but as you can see, they take a lot of your attention. I'm using a spoon and I'm dropping it in like this, okay? Now, I don't know how you make the perfect shape. I don't know, it has to be thicker. Less, it's too loose. It's not holding its shape. This is my favorite one. Let's try a beignet. Really good. The reason your oil can't be too hot is because it will burn the outside before the center is cooked. Remember, this is not water. So when you're spinning them around, be careful. They're fun to make, they're challenging. They're very 1970s. Take a little bit of paprika. This is smoked paprika. This is Fanny Craddock's idea. And I'm just going to dust them with a little bit of smoked paprika, like so. Then I'm gonna eat the misshapen one. Ooh. Pretty good for a first attempt. Beignets. Yay! So, a lot of these weird things that we're making today are in Fanny and Johnny Craddock's Cook Hostess book, which is divided into really fabulous chapters, like Run It Like a Battle, Battle Orders, Areas of Conflict, Preaching to the Converted, Shall We Go In? Really classic book. This is another beautiful one called Giving a Dinner Party, with some amazingly terrible photographs. The photographs are so great. In this book, she has a vile hors d'oeuvre with grapes, which I thought we should try to make. It's in the section called Pour encourager les autres, for encouraging the others. Some of the other things in here are smoked eel, liver pâté crème, Beignets de Fromage, might sound familiar, escargot feuilleté, which is, can't believe anybody would eat that, savory almond paste. And buried in there are grape and cherry canapés. There's no cherries right now, so we're gonna make the grapes. Almonds, salted almonds with a little more salt, okay? And a little bit of pepper. Basically, this is what she tells you to do. This is gonna make a horrible noise, Nick. The dogs don't like that. That's good enough. Believe it or not, she wants you to use white grapes, which makes it even worse. Imagine this with white grapes. You wanna make a flat bottom, okay, so make sure it sits. It sits, okay? Then you're gonna take a little bit of cream cheese. That's right, cream cheese. You're gonna place it on the grape, and then you're gonna dip the grape in the nuts. Okay? So let's do it again. Flat bottom, cream cheese. I don't know if anybody would eat these. Oops, the topping came off. I'm gonna eat this one to see what it's like. The interesting thing about Fanny's books is so much stuff, but one of the interesting things is there were no seedless grapes when she was writing the book. They hadn't developed them. So she wants you to remove the seeds from the grapes. Doesn't look so terrible, right? I'll eat the next one. It's a mystery. I mean, it's not bad. I mean, if you're doing an authentic 70s party, you should totally serve these. Somebody else is gonna try one. Adam. There you go. No good, right?
How is it possibly bad?
Here you go, Lynn. It looks pretty.
It does. The texture is weird.
The texture is bizarre, okay?
But it's not bad.
But it is authentic. Now, I think with a cherry, it would be even more dire, don't you think? So it turns out that a lot of information has come out, and there's actually a movie about Fanny Craddock out right now, that what a surprise. She was a screaming drug addict. She used to take a lot of speed, and to go to sleep, she'd have to take downers, right? But she would call them, there's a candy in England called Hundreds and Thousands, which are like Jimmy's. She had a little bowl next to her bed that she would refer to as Fanny's Hundreds and Thousands, which were all her pills. Fanny, we love you. And thank you for this somewhat inedible grape hors d'oeuvre. It just tastes like a mistake. It tastes like somebody made a mistake. This is for the cherries. When the stones are out, stuff the cherries with cream cheese. Dip the little bulges of white into milled nuts or freshly milled parsley and pile up on a doily, spelled correctly, D''Oyley, on a doily covered dish. For the grape version of this canapé, you will need a wooden cocktail stick, as each grape must be peeled, de-pipped, and then given the cream cheese nut treatment. Gotta love this lady. Bizarro. It's from Bizarro World. It's a mistake. Grape canapés. Let's make a 1970s popular drink called a Brandy Alexander. It contains a very interesting liqueur called creme de cacao, which is chocolate liquor. But the interesting thing about it is that it's clear, which is kind of a cool ingredient, right? I think so. I don't have any cognac. I just have really cheap cooking brandy, so it should be extra good. Okay. Some brandy or cognac, which is essentially fancy brandy. 1 ounce of creme de cacao. And then it says 1 ounce of cream, but we'll just see. Up, loopsie doopsie. Here is a Nick and Nora, the perfect glass, straight from the freezer. Here we go. Wow. Wow, man. Wow. I'm going to put a little nutmeg on the top, as this is a very nice thing for around Christmas. The little shards you see are ice. There you go. Brandy Alexander. No, it's delicious. It tastes like a dessert. That's what it tastes like. It tastes like a fancy dessert. I mean, if you got drunk off those, you'd be so freaking sick. Do you know how sick you'd get? You'd be puking your brains out for 3 days if you drank more than 2. That is a superb drink. And frankly, I'm going to remember that at Christmas. It's better than eggnog. Who knew? This is an interesting item because it doesn't taste, I wouldn't say it tastes chocolatey, but it tastes smooth. So anyway, Brandy Alexander, it's in this fabulous book I have called Cocktails, How to Mix Them. My favorite part of this beautiful book, which is by Robert Vermeer, which is very strange because I went to school with a guy called Robert Vermeer, but it was spelled differently and he was from the South Sea, so it's not the same guy. But my favorite thing is that at the end of the book, he has useful prescriptions, which are alcoholic drinks for sick people. Okay? Influenza. A good remedy against fever, which is generally used in the tropical countries, oh, this is right, is equal parts strong tea and soda water. That's not alcohol. Anyway, Robert Vermeer, this is a beautiful little thing. Look in old stores for wonderful old books like this, and you might learn how to make this crazy delicious thing called a Brandy Alexander. I gotta throw this out because we gotta shoot more stuff today, and this is delicious. Happy 1976. Wild rice became very popular with hippies. Wild rice is okay. It's not great, which is why they mix it with regular rice a lot. So what I did was I boiled some water, for tips on boiling water, and I added some salt. And I'm gonna add a little bit of porcini mushroom powder just to give it a little stocky taste. If you buy anything from Spice House, buy this. Just want to take it off so I can see how dark it is. Okay, that's pretty good. It takes a little more water than regular rice, but here's the clincher. It takes almost an hour to cook. So I'm gonna bring this back to a boil, making sure it's salty, and then I'm gonna cover it and simmer it while we're doing all these other things for our 70s birthday party. So let's see, 70 to 80, I was 7 to 17. 7 to 17, those are some years, man. Simmering, it's boiling, cover and reduce. Takes a solid 50 minutes to an hour. If after 50 minutes it's still crunchy, just add more water. We're trying to make this authentic 70s, so it's all wild rice. I would get the ones that are mixed regular rice and wild rice. It's just, I don't know, it's a little better. But this is a very, very good brand, Lundberg. This is the organic one because we're hippies. Because you know, essentially I'm a hippie, even though I don't want to live with anybody. I want to live in a commune of 1 or 3 if you include the dogs. You could dice some shallots in here if you wanted. But basically it's just going to do its thing for about 50 minutes. Wild rice. Oh, how about Clams Casino? It just sounds fun, doesn't it? Clams Casino. Boom. I actually spent almost 4 years in Rhode Island, right after college, at the Rhode Island Shakespeare Theater. Supposedly, Clams Casino were developed in Narragansett, which is a little ways away from Newport, at the casino in Narragansett, for a lady who wanted something fancy for her guests. Basically, what it is shrimp scampi with clams, okay? But you can dress this up however you'd like. Whatever you want to put on it, it's completely great. We're gonna do one with some parsley, some chives, a little bit of garlic, a little bit of shallots, butter, and breadcrumbs, and lemon. You can do anything you want. And maybe a little paprika, because that seems to be a very 70s thing. I guess they discovered paprika in the 70s. Here we go, Clams Casino. The first thing we're gonna do is buy clams. Now, when we bought our clams, we, of course, these are cherry stones. Oh, this has a hole in it. I hope it's okay. You want them to be tightly closed. If they're open a little bit, when you scrub them, because you have to scrub them, if they close, if they're still alive, they can catch your finger. So be careful. If they're open, throw them out. Always buy more than you need because some won't open in the heat, which means they're dead, and some will be dead by the time you get them home. Do not risk serving that. So these are beautiful. These are from Cinderella. Let's start by opening the clam. So let's take it to the stove. This is Wasser, but I'm gonna put in some vermouth. I'm flavoring the water, and some salt. Is it gonna impart flavor? I don't know. Can't hurt. Putting a little salt. If you had a bouquet garni, you could throw it in there. It's very little water. It's probably too much liquid, actually. We're just gonna put them in and shake it until the clams open. That's all we want. We don't want to cook them all the way through. Now, the clams are a living creature. Please respect them. So right now, they are asleep because they're freezing cold. Please kill them quickly. Don't put them in lukewarm water. Please put them in simmering water. Here we go. Ready? Boiling water. Rhode Island is a strange place. It used to be called the Providence Plantations, meaning it was part of Massachusetts, which it sort of is. They had an ad on TV that went, "We're the biggest little state in the Union, Rhode Island, Rhode Island." We're the biggest little state in the Union, Rhode Island, Rhode Island. It's really beautiful there, but it's essentially part of Massachusetts. Open. Fascinating thing about Newport, if you're interested in American history, is that they have these things there euphemistically called cottages, which are the very fancy homes. For instance, like the Astors. But anyway, you can go in and visit the American version of an English country estate, which is somehow totally American when you're there. And there's some sad stories and some great stories. Marble House, the Breakers. You just want them to be open enough that you can open them completely with a knife. And slightly cooked. There we go. These are opened enough to work with. Clams Casino today. Clams Casino, hooray. So we have 3 guys that, in my opinion, I would not serve. The fact that that's tightly sealed implies to me that the clam is not alive. Here are the clams. I'm taking off this shell, putting it there. Taking off one shell, putting it. Come on! That's a big one. Keep the shells, because you're gonna use them. You're gonna use them. Okay, I'm gonna roughly chop these. You could chop them finely if you wanted. But we're not gonna do that. Okay, basically what we're gonna do is make like a buttery, breadcrumby thing, pour it on top of them, and then broil them. Take 1 shallot. Okay, garlic. So I'm just gonna do the same thing I did with the shallot, cutting strips and dicing. So in your 70s birthday party, this would be like in the adult room. Let the kids have the grape mistake, and you guys have the Clams Casino. Here's your herbs. I'm gonna throw these in the pan when we're done with the frying off the other stuff. This is for color mostly. I'm actually gonna garnish with that raw. This is washed and dried, baby, washed and dried. Then you turn the pile like that and do it again. Let's melt some butter and assemble our Clams Casino. This is some melted butter. Pretty ordinary stuff. Panko breadcrumbs. Oh boy. Shallots and garlic. A little bit of pepper. A little bit of salt. I'm gonna take half of this and I'm gonna use half for garnish, so that's about half. Looks pretty good. Oh, that's delicious. All right, so that's gonna work. I put the clam bits in the casino. Any cook could make this up. You can easily imagine the guy making it up. I'm gonna take a clean tray without all this juice in it, put my clam shells. Okay, now I'm gonna spoon this in heartily into each one, and it's gonna make a massive mess, okay? You know, if you see clam pieces, try to get the clam pieces in the clam shells instead of on the tray. Separating these a little bit. They look beautiful. I mean, who's gonna say no to that? That's an adult appetizer for show. All right, we're gonna take this to the broiler. Here we go. Watch these, they're gonna broil fast. If they don't brown, you're just gonna move that up further, closer to the broiler at the end. Do not put them in the oven without a tray. Disaster will ensue. But let's let these cook until we like the look of them, because we know the clams are basically cooked. So we're just browning the breadcrumbs. Clams Casino. Very popular with Italian Americans, AKA Americans. It became very popular for the 7 fishes thing, because it's easy and fancy. And it's really yummy. People love it. I mean, look at this. How can you say no to Clams Casino? Holy cow. Wow. Pick them up with tongs. Don't use your fingers. This is my beautiful black tray from Heath Ceramics. These look amazing. Ow, they're boiling. Nuclear. I'm not one of these people who freezes things, but I bet you could freeze these. Now, the other thing that was very popular in the 70s was spraying plates with pieces of parsley. That was very big back then. You could also serve this on a bed of salt, so you kind of push the clams down into the salt. You can add a little bit of paprika if you choose. Maybe some of them have it and some of them don't. Clams Casino. Who can say no? What is chicken a la king? Look, let's be frank. It's the inside of a chicken pot pie. When I was a kid, like I told you, it was served at literally every birthday party that you went to. I'm using my beautiful Perry. You say, Dan, thank you so much for your re-story of our post. Oh my God, it meant the world to me. It's the best knife in the world. I'm cutting these fairly big. Celery has a very beautiful taste. An herb that tastes like celery is called lovage. Last summer I took like 4,000 pounds of lovage and shoved them down in a jar covered in oil. And in about 2 days, I had lovage oil, which is basically like oil flavored with celery. It's delicious. Carrots. My dad used to always have carrot sticks or batons, right? Arranged in a circle around a little bowl of Lowry's seasoning salt, which apparently only Adam knows what that is. Next time you go to the grocery store, look for it because it's on the bottom shelf. We used to sometimes get to the tray before Daddy would get there, which engendered the family legendary expression as my father walked into the room after working like a 16, 18-hour day to have his cocktail. And he looked at the tray that we had demolished and he went, 6 carrots for Daddy. He didn't eat a lot. You can use good leftover chicken. Don't try to make this with dry chicken. For instance, a roast chicken that didn't get finished, perfect dish. Shallot. When you have a good knife, makes you a better cook. This is sous vide, just because I didn't make a chicken, so I just sous vide'd it for you guys. I'm actually just gonna remove it. I'm not gonna cut it right now because it's got a lot of herbs infused on it, and I just wanna make it ready for cutting by peeling off the whole herbs that I used to cook it. We have basically mirepoix. We're gonna use a few peas, because mine always had peas. Lynn found a recipe that had mushrooms in it. I've never seen that. Green peppers, blech. You don't want that. This is what you want. Let's go to the stove and make some chicken a la king. Basically, I'm making a sort of faux roux. It's not a faux roux, it's a roux. A little bit of flour. Stir it around. You don't want this to get too dark. No, you can always add more flour later and more butter if you want. Putting in the shallots. Cooking them down just a little pitty pooty poo. Put a little vermouth in here. My go-to liquid. And eventually we're gonna put some cream and milk in here. It may look familiar. Now I'm gonna put the rest of the veg. This is incredibly inconvenient. Turn this up a little bit. Cook this for just a few minutes. I'm gonna taste one of these. Yum mania. A little bit of salt. I'm gonna use some milk and some cream. I cooked this for a little bit, now I'm adding some liquid called milk. The roux will thicken the milk. Don't worry. Lower the heat. Cut the chicken. I'm cutting it into sort of cubes. Well, not sort of cubes. I'm cutting it into cubes. This looks like good chicken, doesn't it? Chicken a la king, oh, chicken a la king. What song is that? Oh, Riders on the Storm. This looks exactly like what I was served. I'm gonna put the peas in. My brother's gonna love this episode. He remembers chicken a la king. Now, I cut it hearty. If you cut this very fine, you could make it almost like a hash that you could put on toast points, and then it could be an hors d'oeuvre. Let's taste a little piece. Wow, that is really good. It's a lot better than the chicken a la king I had as a child. The reduction of the little bit of wine or vermouth in the roux is key. Okay, I'm gonna let this cook for a minute. I'm gonna put a little pepper. It doesn't really need salt. All right, I'm just gonna heat this through. Let's look at our rice. It's opened a little bit, which is fine. It's fluffy. And you're gonna have to do this by tasting it, okay? Delicious. You can tell that it has a slight husk, but the husk is soft. That's wild rice. Now you can cut in some parsley or herbs into that. That's really good. Mixed with the chicken a la king. Come on, your kids will love it. Did you ever read a book called Suzuki Bean? A little girl, child of a beatnik, isn't getting enough attention. And she teams up with a rich kid and they decide to run away. Suzuki Bean, it's gonna make me cry. It's a very, very beautiful book. I'm just reducing this a little bit, so if you wanted to serve it on toast, you could. But anyway, that's it. So today we made the grape mistake. I wouldn't bother with it. We made beignets de fromage, or cheese beignets. They turned out okay. Then we had Clams Casino, don't you know? Followed by chicken a la king, kinda has a ring to it. We served that with some wild rice, a forgotten side, really, it's delicious. Look at that, wild rice. Then we had Black Forest Gateau, for some reason fallen out of favor with the world. And we discovered the wonder of the Brandy Alexander. What a drink. A 70s birthday party. See the tree, how big it's grown, but it hasn't been so long, it wasn't there. Do y'all remember that song? I just wanted to remind you, those of us that were born in the 60s and 50s, of the amazing music and weird things that happened in our childhood that will never happen for the first time again. We want to thank you guys so much for coming to our 70s birthday party when little Randy was 7 years old, or Smeebarvin years old, which is my personal word for 7, Smeebarvin. If you'd like to use it, feel free. For instance, what time is dinner? Smeebarvin. We want to thank you always, always, always for watching, for sending us amazing tips like 13 Soap 13 with the spraying the pan and the dishwasher, genius! And all your amazing ideas for shows, tea parties, spring dinner, which you just had, fish and chips, budget food, it's all coming your way on Dinner Party Tonight. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It does help with the YouTube thing. Don't ask me how it works. It just really helps us if you hit the subscribe button, but also the bell for some reason makes a difference. If you have a second, just hit the bell. And anyways, I want to say with Mrs. Maud, whose nickname is Buckshot Shorty. Thanks for watching. Please consider adoption. You might get one of these. Buckshot Shorty.